Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all of you for being here. And since Senator Tillis just ended with that, let me just add my voice to the same admonition. As you might imagine, General Brown, and thank you for being here, and thank you for going to Minot. I listened very attentively to your answer to Senator Reed about the retirement of Global Hawk 30s and the waiver. But I also noticed that in the modernization plan presented to the House Armed Services Committee, the Block 40 now is being slated for retirement beginning in 2025. Do we now consider the Block 40 a sunset system?
Not at the moment, Senator. And part of our process as well is I want to make sure we have a good transition. And as we build the plan, and as we've had a chance to talk about, and we look at the classified system we're bringing on, what I don't want to do is actually leave a gap. Yeah. And so it's the balance between our planning factors for the Block 40 and the classified system we're going to bring on to make sure that we have a smooth transition going forward.
And I've appreciated your great attention to the details of that with me. Secretary Roth, the OSD reported that the Air Force's budget is $212.8 billion. How much of that $212.8 billion does Secretary of the Air Force actually control?
$174 billion. $39 billion is what's been referred to frequently as the pass-through.
Can we do something about a more transparent budgeting system that doesn't give this view that the Air Force is getting a whole bunch of money that they really don't control?
Yeah, we are actually working with the Office of the Secretary of Defense to see if there's some things that could be done. There's classified reasons why that exists, and so we need to make sure that we don't uncover things that ought not be uncovered. But we're working with our colleagues on the Secretary of Defense's staff to see if there's some ways to do that. I will say when we come out with the budget and we do our budget briefings, come brief you and others here on the oversight committees, we immediately identify what we call the blue budget, which is the $174 billion. And all our conversations from that day on is about the $174 billion. Yeah. But I take your point, and we are, in fact, discussing what is in the art of the doable with the Office of the Secretary of Defense.
Well, and I think you're answering that question that way in this forum is part of the process. So I thank you for that. General Raymond, I really appreciate all the efforts that you've put in this last year and a half, really from day one, on how to involve universities in providing not only technological assistance, but obviously a well-educated and hopefully prepared workforce in many cases for you to succeed. And I was really happy to see that 10 University of North Dakota faculty made a recent visit to Cavalier, to the radar station, and if Molly doesn't get UND today, she can have my copy to read all about it. But it was very cool, and I really appreciate it. But now that you've had these 18 months, do you think that Space Force's outreach and involvement with universities is where it needs to be, and what can we do to strengthen you in that regard?
Yes, sir, and I think it is where it needs to be. We've developed a university partnership program. It's focusing on doing research together, developing people together, recruiting talent together, and we've got this first year, we're going to have 10 universities that are part of that university partnership program, and we look to expand that in the future. I think it's going to provide us great advantage, and we appreciate very much University of North Dakota's partnership with us.
Well, and as always, let us know how we can be helpful. General Brown, I do have some concerns about the cuts in the fiscal year 22 funding for the MH1, the MH-139, and it's slated to replace, of course, our very aging UH-1 helicopters in Minot. And I'm told the delay is because of a delay in FAA certification. But unless you think the aircraft's not going to achieve its certification, why would we stop paying for it and building it? Because we've seen other aircraft that have had those same FAA delays, but didn't have a pause in production. So I'm kind of concerned about that. Is it really necessary to do that? I don't know if you've ever flown in UH-1 in Minot in the winter, but it's very unpleasant, and we'd like to be able to keep that on track. So do you have an explanation other than the FAA?
Well, it is an FAA certification, and the aircraft is a commercially derived platform. We're putting military equipment on it, which drives the additional certification. So we ran into an issue in part of the testing. So we are continuing testing on other parts of the aircraft beside the one defensive system we're putting on. It was causing some issues. What we want to do is ensure we align our money with the delivery. And so the delivery will be delayed just several months is what we expect going forward. So we want to keep our focus on it and want to make sure that, as you said, flying a UH-1 in Minot in the winter is probably not what we want to continue to do, which is why we want to get the MH-139 on track.
Thank you. Thank you all again for your service.